Hey everybody, today we have Marco Gorlei joining us all the way from the UK. Marco, say hi.
Hey guys, what's up?
So, Marco, could you tell us a little bit about who you are and how you ended up over there?
Yeah. Um, so I'm basically from South Africa. Um, Raised in Cape Town. Um, Always been into games, video games and stuff. That's kind of how I got an interest in art. And roundabout in high school, I started doing it a bit more seriously. And then, you know, near the end, it's always like that decision, like, oh, what am I gonna study? So I found Feng Zhu's videos
Mm-hmm.
on YouTube because I was trying to learn to get better for art, and I decided I'll just take a shot with that. Um, so then I just flew over to Singapore for a year of really intense and work. It's probably the hardest, but also the most rewarding and most fun year of my life. Just learning at that school. After that, did some freelance for about 3 years in Cape Town. Then I got an offer from ATOMHAWK here in the UK. Um, so I moved there, and I've just been working there as a senior concept artist until today. So yeah,
That's
it's been
absolutely amazing, man. Very, very cool. All right, so it's super nice to have another South African on here. It's kind of part of my mission at the moment is to just kind of expose all our local badasses around the world. So,
yeah, yeah.
so I wanted to know, like, did you ever learn art in high school, and did you take that anywhere, like right after high school, like before you jumped overseas? Like, did you actually
hmm
practice on your own and do kind of stuff in your own time?
A little bit, yeah. In high school, I was gaming a lot, so I wasn't practicing art too much, but I was definitely interested in it, and it was like one of my subjects in school. But like obviously, it kind of had nothing to do with the industry, what you learn in high school.
Mm, mm,
um,
mm.
so it was just like a very basic art education before FCD. I was really terrible back then.
Okay.
Um, yeah, didn't learn much. Uh, so yeah, most of the growth came from FCD, I would say.
Awesome, dude. I think a lot of people who are watching this right now must be wondering one of two things. Number one, what is FCD if they've never heard of it, which is kind of unusual in this day and age that someone hasn't heard of FCD. But for those of us who have heard of FCD, we'd love to know more about it because we haven't been there and you have.
Mhm.
Do you want to share with us just like a typical like structure that you had while you were at the school and what it was like to be in the program?
Sure. So FCD Feng Zhu School of Design. It's just an art school based in Singapore, and it's focused on this industry, concept art industry. So if you really want to grow fast, that's one of the options. But to your question, um, basically there are 3 terms in the year. First term is like perspective and art fundamentals, which they really try to drill into you. Then the second term is more painting and different techniques. Like I think we had some ZBrush at the time and some like basic 3D intros. And then term three, you basically just focus on your own project. Um,
Very
Once you've
interesting.
learned all
Mhm.
the like fundamental skills. Yeah.
Yeah. So you would probably describe the program as quite intense because that seems like a lot to cover
Yeah.
in a year.
Yeah. Um, Especially the first term when they're trying to drill all these like habits into you, it can get very intense, and it's kind of like a what have I got myself into moment. And
Right.
of course, there's also the competition with like friendly students. Like the
Hmm.
competition was very fierce, and like in my batch particularly, we had some really amazing artists as well. Um, so especially in term one, when where I was sort of like, I would say I wasn't the best like at all. I was like, I was really sweating trying to keep up with everyone.
It's incredible, man. It's hard to believe looking at your work now because, like, you just seem like in the stratosphere in terms of techniques and ideas and technology and tools. Like, when you left FZD, did you come back home directly?
Yeah.
Oh,
Um,
nice. Because I mean,
yeah.
I bumped into you in America. Like you and I met in San Francisco at GDC. So like I
Right.
assume after that whole journey, you came back, or how did it go for you?
Yeah. So before, God, my memory's so bad. So after FCD, I came straight home to South Africa for a nice little break. I didn't really work for a while. I think it took like half a year for me to start working again. I just
Was
needed to rest.
yeah, I was gonna ask you like, was it the PTSD that you were working through with
Oh yeah,
therapists?
oh yeah, for sure. Um, so after those horrific flashbacks and all that, I decided to okay, I need to start working again. So I did some freelance here and there, and then I think Fang randomly talked to me. He said, "Yeah, we have a booth at GDC, and like some of our students are coming up to show their portfolios and stuff. Would you like to join?" So I was like, "Yeah, that sounds cool."
That's
So I
cool.
went up with a bunch of my friends.
Yeah.
Really amazing experience as well. Just like because we sort of did like a road trip throughout the whole from like Salt Lake where my friend lived, and we drove all the way to California and just did like a big road trip, which was really fun.
That's amazing, man. That is super cool. Like I
Yeah,
think when I walked into the booth and I saw you standing there and like checked out all your work, I can't remember who I started chatting to, but someone said, "Oh, you're from South Africa? So is Marco. You should chat to him." And then I was like, "What? No way. There's like a South African doing the FCD program." So I went to like find you, and then we
yeah,
kind of hit it off. But like you might not know this, but that I think it was that day of GDC had a pretty profound impact on me because I was there to like get some feedback on my portfolio.
yeah,
And when Feng walked into the booth, like everyone like outside of the booth realized he was there and started to line up for a review. And I was like literally next to him, and I was like, "Hey, are you doing?" And he was just like, "Hey, man, let's just sit down." And like,
yeah.
here's a guy, like, I think before you went to Feng's FCD, like, you were listening to this guy on YouTube and getting all this information from him and listening to his voice.
Hmm.
Like, that was like my experience, except I didn't stop. So it was like the
Hmm.
entire year that you were away and all the years before that, like, I had Feng's voice in my head the whole time,
Yeah,
like, on all these principles, these ideas. And I was just like, man, one day I'm going to meet this dude and I'm going to show him some work and hopefully get some feedback. And that's when it happened. And I was like, oh
nice.
man, it was epic. So like really, really lucky to have been there and to obviously have met you and kept in contact as well, and
Yeah.
just kind of seen your career take off, which has been super, super cool. Could you maybe tell us like um, how did you go from coming back here, working a little bit of freelance, to being noticed by ATOMHAWK? I mean, that's a pretty prestigious company. A lot of us would probably die to work there. Like, what was that like? How did that happen?
Um, so I was freelancing for a while and I was kind of getting a bit tired of it because uh if you kind of like freelancing, you kind of don't get out much. And like I had my friends from high school and stuff. So I'd meet up with them occasionally and stuff, but I found it very hard to meet people in the industry. And especially in South Africa, which is, as you know, kind of isolated from the rest of the industry. It's kind of growing now, um, but it is very isolated. I felt so I felt like I really had to work in a company so I could start meeting other artists and stuff. Um, so I started applying everywhere. Um, and yeah, Adam Hawk was just one of the places I applied, I guess, and they got back to me. But in terms of what they saw, I guess,
Hmm.
is I guess they just, they like my environment work. I'm always trying to improve, and I think back then I had quite a lot of personal work to show off. Uh, so yeah,
That's great. And had you been dabbling in like 3D packages hardcore then, or were you just kind of just starting out?
back then I think I was just starting out. I the only sort of 3D introduction to 3D I remember was Yama Yorubev's Learn Squared course for 3D codes.
Okay.
Um, and I think for me that was like a really important course to take, because before that I just had no idea about 3D really, and 3D Code is one of those programs where you can still be very artistic. It's not just like dragging around vertices and stuff, you know. It's more like sculpting, kind of like ZBrush. And
Right.
I found that process really fun, and it had a huge impact on my work, I think.
Are you still using it?
Oh yeah.
Sweet.
It's
All
kind
right.
of like outdated because of Blender, but I
Yeah,
still use it anyway.
that's amazing, man. So, like, listen, like one of the things I ask people, especially because hashtag 2020, is like, how has COVID affected you in your work and your personal life?
Honestly, it hasn't been too bad for me. I think as a kind of like a shut-in artist, you know, it's like really easy to work from home and stuff.
Okay, so you are working
Um,
from home.
yeah, ATOMHAWK, you know, uh, we've moved the whole office to
Hmm.
working at home at the moment. Um, and it's worked really well, I think. Everyone's kind of like handling it kind of nicely. Luckily, I have a partner to spend time with,
Yeah,
so I'm not like completely alone and stuff.
yeah,
So yeah,
big deal.
I think for me it's been all right. I know for others it's been a lot harder, so I'm very thankful.
Awesome. And you're still able to like get around, go to shops, like that kind of basic stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, cool.
The lockdown isn't too crazy at the moment.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I heard Europe's going through some kind of second wave, and is that
Hmm.
affecting you at all?
Yeah, it's there has been a rise, especially here in the Northeast, um, which is where I'm based.
Hmm.
And Scotland as well. There's been quite a rise, but especially in Newcastle, people don't seem to be too bothered about it. They're still drinking every day and stuff. So
Well, that's how you keep it away, man. It's the corona. You
yeah,
just got to keep drinking.
yeah, yeah.
So tell me,
If you
man,
drink Corona,
like
you can keep it away.
exactly, that's how it works. It's like mosquito repellent. You just drink it.
Hmm. Yeah.
So, like, what's got you like really psyched at the moment? Like, are there any video games or series or anything that you're consuming right now that has you a little bit pumped?
Um. hmm. I mean, I take big inspiration from getting outside,
Okay.
especially nowadays. You know, I
Yeah.
like practicing photography and stuff.
Oh, sick.
I
Yeah.
can also use that in my works as well. So it's kind of like two birds with one stone, and it's just a nice hobby to have. Get it, and it forces me to get outside sometimes.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Um, Video games. Been playing like just some of the trendy like multiplayer games, like nothing special, like Among Us and
Oh
stuff.
yeah. I recently
Yeah,
found out about that game. It's pretty hilarious.
yeah, it's just fun stuff to play with friends, but
Yeah.
nothing too technical, you know, like no like Witcher RPGs and stuff.
Yeah. None of this new Unreal Engine stuff that ignores polycounts and
Yeah, yeah. But I mean, you know, I do keep an eye on it and like seeing some of
yeah.
the concept work that's been done on some of the latest games. Like I remember Ghost of Tsushima was like really inspiring to see all that art.
Yeah, pretty mind blowing.
Yeah, really awesome stuff. That that's the one I can think of on the top of my head. Um, Movies, I'm just rewatching Twin Peaks because it's
Oh
awesome.
snap! I need to get into that. It's actually been on my
Yeah.
list for a while. Thank you for reminding me.
Oh yeah, no
Um,
worries.
so like, do you think mentioning like that you have a hobby and stuff like that and that you're getting around, do you think it's possible for a professional artist to have a work-life balance?
Oh yeah, for sure. I think it's easy to like think that if you like look in an art station like every day, it's like I think it's easy for you to think that like oh these artists are like working all the time like every day and stuff, but I don't think that's the case. Like everyone's sort of at different stages in their artistic journey. Like there's a point where you have to kind of work every day, but there's also a point where you have to find balance. And I would say I'm kind of at that point at the moment.
Yeah. I
Um,
was chatting to Nico. I don't know if you know Nico Lee
oh
Lazarus.
yeah, yeah I do.
Awesome. Well, like I was chatting to him the other day in the interview as well about, like, is it possible to have work-life balance and stuff like that? And like, it was interesting to see his take on it as well. But I
Mhm.
was wondering, like, you've been mostly, or let's say primarily working in video games until this point, I'm assuming, right? Is that right?
Mostly video games. Yes, I've had
Okay.
a little bit of film experience, but it's
Oh,
mostly
okay.
video games.
Awesome. Okay. Have you noticed a difference between the two? Like,
Yeah, film work is more intense.
okay.
It's just daily updates, a bit more dirty, and you get like, in my experience, you get like photo plates to work off of. So they're like, I was I forget the word for it, but I was like post shooting. So they had already shot the movie, and we were just adding VFX.
Okay.
So in my experience, I was like working off the shots they had filmed and like adding the VFX to it.
Yeah.
Um,
That's so interesting to me because it's not a process that a lot of people who are starting out doing concept art even think is a thing, right? They just think
mhm.
like, oh, I'm going to be creating everything from scratch. And you're telling us like, hey, actually, when you're in the industry, like you'll be surprised how much information you actually get from people. Do you
Yeah,
get like gray box renders and things like that while you're working on games as well?
yeah, yeah. I've had like huge variety of tasks. Like some of the things can be quite strange, but yeah, a lot of gray box renders as well. Especially for like concept work. Sometimes get a lot of illustration work as well, which is more of, I guess, what people expect, which is where you like do some sketches all by yourself, like from scratch, you know.
Yeah, exactly. So, like, looking back on the kind of stuff that you've done and the kind of projects you've been involved in, is there anything that you still feel like you would love to get into as like a medium or an idea or like a style of making art?
Um, I kind of want to push my Blender skills a little bit more,
Mm-hmm.
because I feel like in that program you can just do so much. Like people have been doing like Ghibli styled stuff in Blender, um, all these like cool different styles, and I would love to experiment with that. So that's definitely one thing. Um, but yeah, apart from that, just focusing on my weaknesses really.
Oh yeah. What do you think your weaknesses are?
Or characters, I think for sure.
Okay. Is that
Um,
from like what kind of point is that from? Like they're using like a 3D base, or do you think just sketching from the start?
Sketching from start,
Okay.
and also just traditional drawing as well.
Okay.
I try to do that when I can, but I'm not great
Yeah.
at keeping up that habit.
Yeah.
So
It's a lot easier to just take photos
yeah,
or use like
yeah,
a shader in Blender.
yeah.
Look, I
But
made
I
this
must say,
amazing sketch.
yeah, I must say though, like being at ATOMHAWK and being surrounded by like diff- so many different artists with like different styles, it definitely inspires you to like push into other directions that you're not so comfortable with.
Okay.
So yeah, that's always something.
If you could recommend like an artist at Adam Hawk for us to take a look at, someone you think is really badass and really interesting, like who would you recommend?
All of them, pretty much.
All of them? Is that your daily
Yeah,
life? Just going into work and
yeah,
being demoralized?
yeah. No, like it's
Uh,
it's really tough because you see like so much good stuff on the screens, and you're just like, damn, I have
yeah,
to like
man.
give it my all today.
So wait a second. How long ago was it that you've been working for Adam Hawk?
uh, about 4 years now, I think.
4 years, man. That's cool. And you've risen
Yeah,
from like, did you come in as a junior artist or like a midweight?
I came in as a midweight. Yeah,
Okay, cool. That's cool, man. Really,
and
really
then I've
nice.
risen to
Congrats.
senior.
Do
Oh
you
yeah.
do you have any aspirations in the future to do art directing?
Um, a little bit. Like right now, I'm still very interested in just improving my art. The art director role, you kind of like, the thing that kind of like puts me off it a little bit is um, you kind of don't get to work on your own stuff as much. You're more, it's more about like giving feedback to others and stuff.
Yeah.
Which I do like doing that, and I like teaching as well. Like uh, you know, I've at Adam Hawk I've been able to teach as well a little bit, which is really great,
Yeah.
and I find that really fun. Um,
Have you been teaching interns or like juniors? Like who have you been teaching in the company?
interns and also like some intermediates
Okay.
sometimes. And I've also had some like private mentorships occasionally, but I don't do that too often. Only when I have a lot of free time.
Mm.
Um, but yeah, uh, got sidetracked. What was the original question?
I think the original question was like, is there anything you wanted to achieve? Like still, like moving
Oh,
on.
okay. Well, yeah. Just improving in general.
Yeah.
Art director, I think down the line, yes. But for now, I'm not sure. Yeah,
Okay.
but I would like
Okay.
to build up eventually as I
Okay.
get older.
And what about like your own IP and stuff like that? Is that anything that you would aspire to?
Yeah, actually, one thing I've been thinking about is redoing one of my FZD projects
Oh,
because
cool.
it was such a long time ago, and at least I think I've improved a bit since then.
Oh yeah.
So I would like to take that IP and redo it again.
A redesign. That's
Yeah,
awesome, dude.
yeah.
You should put that on YouTube. Definitely let me know, man. I'd love to
Oh
watch
yeah,
that.
yeah.
Just like I
Sure,
think
man.
if you could walk us through like your original intention and like how you approached it and what you were thinking, and then like your redo, like actually talk about the new process, that'd be amazing. I'd love to watch that.
Yeah, that'd be cool. I mean, like YouTube is one of those things that's like always on my mind,
Hmm.
but like I always feel like too lazy to do it.
Dude, it's super
Yeah,
easy. All you do is you just hook up a webcam, you just do
yeah,
it. It's super cool.
yeah. I think I just have to jump in, you know, without thinking.
Yeah, yeah. That. What do you think about that, by the way, when it comes to like producing art? I feel like Fengzu school probably like broke you into just like doing rather than thinking. But like I think a lot of artists really struggle because they like hit this point where they're like, man, I don't know how to get over myself in order to produce the kind of work I want to. Do you ever feel that? Is that something that still comes up for you?
Mm, I think so, actually. Like sometimes it is a bit hard to um, jump into an artwork uh, or like start some like massive project. Um, yeah, I think if like no matter how good you get, you're always gonna have that voice at the back of your head saying like, oh, like what if it's, you know, what if it fails, or like what if it's not as cool as you want it. And yeah, I think that's always a struggle, but you kind of just have to force yourself to do it, you know. It's
Totally.
kind of hard to explain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you mentioned earlier that you're in a relationship. Is that right?
Oh yeah, yeah. My girlfriend's also a concept artist.
Oh,
She's
cool. I
really
was going to ask,
badass.
like, what is it? Do you think it's like way beneficial to date someone who is an artist while you're an artist, or do you think that it's not really that big a deal?
Honestly, I think it's it doesn't really matter, you know, what they. I mean, it's kind of cool, like you can talk about art and stuff, but
Yeah.
one thing that's kind of hard about it is artists, you know, their first love will always be like art. So when you get like two people together and they're always like trying to improve,
Mm-hmm.
it's sometimes kind of hard to spend time
Yeah.
together because you're trying to like crack on with your artwork and stuff.
Yeah.
That's the only difficulty I would say. But apart from that, it's
Yeah.
quite great.
But I think there's probably mutual understanding there in that world where you
Hmm.
kind of go like, oh, we both just need time for this thing. Like, do you guys like
Hmm.
schedule it out, or you just kind of like wing it?
Oh, we kind of just like wing it.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
That's cool. If it works, man. You can't question
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Sweet, dude. So, last question I have for you today, and by the way, thank you so much for being here. Is based on your own experience, do you have any recommended advice for artists who want to break into this industry? If you had to trace back your path and maybe even think about someone up and coming now, what kind of path would you kind of engineer for them?
It's a hard question. It's a responsible question as well.
No pressure.
um, I would say when you're starting out, just try your best to stay positive. Um, instead of being, um, wait, how do I say this? Instead of being demoralized from like all the cool stuff you're seeing, try to be inspired and just try to take in as much as possible. Like be interested. Like if you're interested in like medieval, like don't just stop at like what you see in ArtStation for the benchmark. Like dig into what happened during that time. Like
Hmm.
learn about what tools they use, like how they built things, or like what wars went down, you know,
Hmm.
be interested in what sort of subject, and that's just part of the fun. There's no point in thinking about like, oh, like I'm gonna make this piece to try and get some likes. Just be interested in what you're doing.
Yeah. So it's like be a psycho nerd otaku, just get stuck in.
Yeah, pretty much, I
It's like,
guess.
do you think there's power in producing artwork for yourself in a way that's like super nerdy? Like I did this for me. Do you think that resonates with people?
Yeah, I think so. A lot of people test themselves with personal work as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Um, they try to see how far they can go, or they try something they're not comfortable with. And that's the great thing about personal work is you can always test yourself and just see
Absolutely.
how far your creativity can go.
Yeah, and find a method that actually works as opposed to like hold you back or like is completely inefficient. Like do you ever like experiment on a piece where you go like, okay, I need like some kind of insane crowd scene. How am I going to pull this off? Or is it like, do you ever have those moments? I mean, even in your job, I
Yeah,
assume that's a thing, right?
that's more of a job thing, yeah. Because sometimes you get the hard thing about a job is sometimes you get tasks you just like don't want to do, or like that are really really outside of your comfort zone.
Yeah.
um, so you kind of have to like be aware of methods in the industry as well, and I think that's some advice I would give to starters out as well. It's just like see where the industry is going and always be aware of how other artists are approaching these different difficulties, because it could help you when you have to do something similar.
Awesome, man. Have you experimented with VR at all?
Um, no, I'm sort of got my eye on it. Like, ooh,
Mm,
like that
the
looks like
periphery.
really interesting, yeah. But I haven't tested it out yet. No.
Yeah. It kind of feels like using grease pencil, but like on a whole other level.
Yeah, the thing that kind of worries me about it is that it's so good I won't be able to like do things normally again. Like
Yeah, right. It's like
because not all offices have that kind of setup. So it's like, what if you start doing really good personal work with a VR, and now you're like in a job, but they don't have that sort of setup for you to work in, and it's just
yeah,
like, kind of, what do I do now?
yeah.
That's
There's
my
this
only concern.
yeah, there's like there's this crazy artist who I was watching an interview with. His name's like Vitali B something, but whatever. And he's just like this crazy 3D concept artist, and he is like militant about his approach in creating artwork to the point where he started like creating systems that would relieve him of like inefficient ways of approaching art. And by doing that, he's created a pipeline for himself where he can just kind of like he's got so much kit bash capability and he's got skill on top of that that he's able to like pretty much pull off anything at this point. And it's like he's like living in like I think he's like right at the frontier of like the industry, and like listening to him has been mind-blowing because it's just like, yeah man, once you're at this kind of level, it's really hard for other people to even imagine how to create artwork like he does. Like it's kind
Hmm.
of nuts.
Right. I think you're talking about Bulgarov, right?
Yeah, Bulgarov, totally.
Yeah. Yeah, he's insane. Next
Yeah.
level.
Next level. Awesome, dude. Thank you so much for taking the time today on a Saturday to meet up and have a chat and hopefully give some, really powerful insights into your world and into the world of concept art for not only the world, but also us local South Africans who absolutely love to see artists succeed and do really well. So from me, man, thank you so much.
You're welcome, man. Thank you for having me. It's been great.
Awesome. Cheers, man. Take care.
Cheers, dude.